right, and we're back with the Don Carlos segment. Don, take it away.
Good evening, everybody. It's the Don Carlos segment this wonderful Saturday night. And today we have our special guest, David Baptiste, also known as a.k.a. Ronin Gray.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And he's from the Pollo Heights area, so those people out there listening in Pollo Heights, East Los areas, you know, we have a lot of pride for our folks, especially those that make it out, you know, because there was a long time that to make it out of that area was an accomplishment, a very big accomplishment. Most times people would get into like firefighter positions, police positions, kind of like your local trade, so to speak, if they weren't killed on those streets, because there was a time that bodies would be on the streets, left there for sometimes days, and that was the 80s. That was very popular back in the 80s in some of the projects down there, where not even the police would come and respond to a 911 call. So, so today, we welcome David Baptiste. And I was just doing a little bit of homework. You're now into film, you're acting, you're producing, you're creating, but it still sounds like you're, based on the little conversation we had back there, your heart is still in the, still grounded in your roots. And tell us a little bit about kind of that journey and what that's been like.
You mean getting out or being from the neighborhood?
Being from the neighborhood, and
we discussed a little bit briefly, like when you're young, the neighborhood, it becomes your whole world, and then you travel outside of that world, and I'm speaking just of Boyle Heights, and you thinking the influence of gangs and crime and opposing law enforcement because of the people that you grew up around. They have this idea, this belief. And then you live in the valley somewhere and you see things are different. Just something small like that,
Yeah. Culture shock.
Yeah. But the more you do it, the more you grow. The more you grow, you can't ungrow. You learn, you keep growing,
right.
So I think that what I've learned from coming out of there is just that traveling has really helped me a lot. Seeing the world, understanding the importance of self-educating myself. And the things that I'm interested in, I speak 3 languages, and I'm learning a 4th language now. Those things, you have to do them because you desire to do them.
What's the 3rd? 'Cause definitely
I speak
Spanish and English.
English,
right?
Spanish, and Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Yes, I have Portuguese heritage too.
All right.
Yes.
Well, see, I mean, and so you've been basically growing, right? I mean, you get into film, you do some traveling. Sounds like you have a very strong work ethic, which, I think that also is kind of instilled in people that come from, like Boyle Heights and like my neighborhood, South Central Boyle Heights area, because it was all about your work ethic. It was like, hey, actually, it was like if you had the guts and you had the work ethic, no one was going to stop you. No one was going to get in your way. You just did it. You didn't complain about it. If you had excuses, it kind of made you weak. You know what I mean? People are like, this guy right here, he's always got excuses. You became this known to be unreliable. And so being reliable in the streets was like an important quality to have, is that you're reliable, you come through when you say you're going to come through, your word. That's something my mom even told me. It's like, you're going to reach a time in your life when the only thing you have left is your word. You know what I mean? Like the money ain't going to do it. Just because somebody ain't going to do it, it's going to be your word. They're going to say, based on past experiences.
Your character and your merit.
That's right.
It's going to carry you.
It's going to carry you, exactly. So, and I've had that happen to me personally, and I've seen it, and it's benefited me personally. And, when you're a hard worker, you say you're part of a Hollywood Teamsters and some of these other groups. Yeah, I'm
a member of 3 different unions in the motion picture industry. I'm a member of the Labor's Union, and just helping build and construct and destroy the sets when they're done. And I did that for a few years. I'm a member of the Teamsters Union, which is anything with wheels that moves in the studios. That's what we do. And I'm also a member of the Screen Actors Guild too. So I work as an actor. Acting is a tough business, so I have those trade jobs to provide for me financially to fund what I want to do
Very nice.
when the time to perform the art is available.
So we talked a little bit about kind of very briefly about politics because it didn't seem. I mean, you said something interesting, kind of like I don't really kind of get into it, but I'm affected by it. I have
Yes.
things that affect me positively and negatively. And on our show here, we can get pretty deep into the political weeds of things. But I mean, like something as I don't know, as common as say gun rights, of people being able to defend themselves. I mean, what's your take on gun rights here in California? What do you think? Do you think we should just lock them, put guns off the streets, and everybody's going to be happy and merrier, or what's your thought?
No, I don't think so. I think that people should have the right to have their guns, and that's just when I grew up as a kid, I had a gun as a young boy to defend myself in the city of Los Angeles. My pops, he was in Vietnam, and he always stressed to me the importance of having your arms, and you give up absolute power if you give away the ability to defend yourself. I know that there's like 40,000 deaths a year from gun violence.
I think over half of them are by accidents, but yeah, there's about.
But
40.
There's probably an equal amount of car crashes. People die fatally too, so it's just as dangerous.
Well, it's interesting because Newsom signed something saying like we're going to go after gun manufacturers. That he believes that the people have the right to sue the manufacturers who make and build and manufacture these guns. So if you were a victim or your family was a victim, you could go after them. And when you say it the way you just said it, as far as cars, I've seen cars used as a weapon.
Yes.
I've seen. I left the club minutes before.
People drive irresponsibly with children and stuff in the car.
Yeah,
it's just
that too.
Fatal.
And so, are we to say that we can go and just sue every single car manufacturer at this point and say, I mean, where do we draw the line in the sand is kind of the question,
Yes.
Yeah, but going back into like with your film or going into film, I mean, why of all things, why film? Why? And it says here you trained in improv as well.
Yes.
Does it have some sort of therapeutic effect for you, or is it just? I
started in music. I think that I enjoyed entertaining and I enjoyed talking to the people. I don't have the fear of being on stage, but to be a Chicano and to be rapping was not happening. Like, it wasn't selling for me.
Yeah.
But when I started working in the motion picture industry, I started making money.
Right.
And I started making a living. And I started seeing how when I didn't fight what was meant for me, things just started to open up without friction. But I was trying to do music and I'm pushing and it's not working out.
Right.
But when I started to work in the motion picture industry, things unfolded for me effortlessly.
Oh.
So that's why I did it. And even when I wasn't performing with all the different unions, I said, at least I can stay in the motion picture industry and I can stay in the studio. When I work at Fox Studios and I walk around and the guys that clean the restrooms, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? And the guys in the cafeteria see me. Then I know that I've created a different home for me. Now I probably don't get that anymore in Boyle Heights because I've outgrown that and I've moved away, but that's an evolution for me to be able to be there and for everyone. That's a positive growth,
Nah, but what you're talking about there, like I have a lot of homies from Boyle Heights, and it's funny. We go places, we go bar hopping, we go to different restaurants, and we're like that all the time.
Yeah.
We know the guy who's picking up the tables just as much as the guy who's waiting the tables, you know. And when we go places, it's like pura vida, we're always like pura vida, man, So, we like to come in with that kind of an energy because it's like, well, number one, that's who we are, but it's like this is life. You want to have those good times with folks, and not every day you meet with people are they on their best either, So
I have a tagline I'll share with you. It's when people say, "Hey man, how you doing today?" And I say, "I never had a bad day in my life."
I read that actually.
I never had a bad day in my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, one time I met this guy who was a Vietnam veteran too, and he told me that, and I adopted it from him. And I said, man, I know what these guys been through and what they've seen, when they were out on the field. And for him to still have that attitude. And when you're a leader, when you're a foreman, when you're a captain of your crew, they follow you. You know, if you come in the morning and you guys are all having coffee together and you're having oh man, things are just, man, everything's messed up. But when you have, I ain't never had a bad day in my life. People laugh. Some people, they don't like it, but it sets the tone for being positive and for being motivated. That's your responsibility. Well, I believe, as a leader, you know what I'm saying, to hold the moral up of the company that you keep.
That's right.
You know, even if you're a father and you're having a lot of stress on your shoulders, you know, you might discuss those things with your wife, but you don't want to have that. You don't want to worry your children with those things either. You know,
it's very true. Where do you think you gained the work ethic that you kind of took into the Hollywood scene? Do you take that back to home, in the house, your mom, your dad?
I got my first job at the age of 12. A guy named Eddie Ramirez gave me a job at the Ramirez Pharmacy on the corner of Brooklyn Avenue and Soto. And I think that working so young, it just something, I don't know. Ambition is something you're born with. It's not something you learn. You either have it or you don't. You're either lazy or you don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you can't be afraid is what it is. Sometimes I get nervous, even like if I'm, like I've done stand-up comedy before, and I did it because I said, oh, that's something I'm afraid to do. But that's all more the reason to go out and do it. Because once you cross that line, you realize, hey, man, this ain't nothing.
Right.
What was I so scared of? You know, and I don't know.
Well, I think also when you were talking about, like, you're either born with it or not, I would say that I see that for myself. I either had it or I didn't. But, you know, I think, like, when you become a leader, you start looking at, you know, how do I let this person or this group or even your kids, you know, how do I get them to understand that this is good for them? So it's all about finding what the motivation is. Because once the motivation's there, your why, like, why am I doing this? Nothing gets in your way because you're focused. You're like, you know, you're laser focused on this why. This is why I'm doing it. And you give them that why, you give them that motivation, and I don't think anything stops them from it, you know. So I think what happens a lot of times in our neighborhoods is that we have, you know, broken homes, broken families. We have situations happening in the schools, and a lot of them are just like, ¿para qué? Like, well, why even go to school? Like, what does it matter? You know, they're not blind. They see their brothers, their sisters, or their other extended family who went through that whole process. They don't see them with the better life. You know, so a lot of them are already kind of looking at it. I mean, kids are just so smart that we don't give them credit for how smart they are. But until we change or somehow shift their minds to their why and the motivations, you know, for me, quite frankly, I mean, I had grandparents that were getting older. They were sicker. They had nurses in their homes to care for them. I had 2 brothers murdered. My younger brother and myself were sitting there thinking, like, damn, you know, who's gonna run the family business? And so there was not a whole lot of options at that point. It was like, well, we just got to handle it. You know, we just got to do it. And our family became our why. You know, our family, because we saw the sacrifices that the generations before us made, and we saw the fruits of those sacrifices. And so I try to teach my kids, like, hey, you know, you're going to do that. You're going to sacrifice. A lot of times they get excited. They want to do 10, 15, 20 different things. You know, I'm sure we've seen plenty of people get burned out trying to do way too much. Like, you were doing your music and you were doing your film, right? And at some point, you had to make the necessary sacrifices.
You have to make a choice to focus. It's like when I'm speaking if I'm speaking multiple languages, I'm better when I'm practicing. If I'm going to go back into Spanish and I prepare myself because this is the dialogue I'm going to be having for the next month, then I speak it better. But if I'm trying to speak multiple languages at one time, you confuse yourself and then you slack.
Yeah.
You slack, you know. So you want to be. I think, you know, it's better to be more efficient and get your point across than to be kind of okay in everything, you know?
Yeah. And for you, though, what do you think the importance is right now with, like, I mean, you know, you said you've moved out of Boyle Heights, but I don't think it matters if you're in Boyle Heights, if you're in the Valley, if you're in Florida. I mean, what do you think what are the ingredients, I guess, for young Chicanos, young Hispanics to kind of have a successful future or have an opportunity to take advantage of, say, things like film or music? what ingredients need to exist for them?
I can't speak too much on music because I wasn't very successful in music, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as just the will to do it, the will to work, my thing is always, you know, I show up early and I go and I work hard and have a good attitude.
Yeah.
You know, and plan on building relationships for the long term. I worked for Judge Judy for a couple years too, and that relationship came from a friend that I met in college, and he seen me acting, and then he said, or I was doing background, and he said, "Hey man, I work here," and I say, "Hey, if you ever need somebody," then that relationship played out, and then every job that I've ever had, I never submitted a resume. It was always just on my name and work ethic alone. Some people like you, some people don't. The ones that like you and the ones that reach out to you, you work with those people.
Yeah.
That's what the universe is moving you that way. You know, it's just, that's how I feel, you know. Some things you go against and some things they open up for you, you know. I think what changed me a lot is just like when I was telling you, I did my DNA, and then people they have this one identity of who they are,
Right.
but you're gonna realize that you're mixed with so many different people from all over the world.
Right.
Like it's like a global community. You start to see, oh, I'm indigenous this, and you know, I have this Iberian Peninsula, and oh, I might have my biases about these people, but you know what? You're 10% that.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do now? You know,
Yeah.
so I think that
Gonna hate yourself.
it's important to open up to understand these things. You know, traveling really changed my mind. You know, like even if I talk to some young brothers and I tell them, yeah, I've been to Africa, I've been to Ghana, I've been to Cape Town, South Africa. Oh man, you know, people think, oh, you're from Boyle Heights, Chicano. You never, you know. And I tell them, man, I've been to Portugal, Spain, France, Germany. Right. I've been to Switzerland. I've been, you know, it's just interesting. And then everywhere you go, you learn something. When I was in Brazil, that's where I was recently. They were like, "You're not afraid to be here," and I said, "The problems that are in Brazil are just as bad in Guadalajara, Mexico. They're just why would I be afraid? It's just different language.
Yeah,
it's the same."
So you learn the language, and now you're fearless.
No, not fearless. A wise man avoids conflict. You know, you got to be aware of where you go. You're not gonna walk down a good dark alley with a gold watch on.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a wise phrase. Another wise phrase I heard recently, and it goes back to kind of the gun rights, is like, you know, I'd rather be the guy that's standing in front of a judge than sitting 6 feet under, you know, just because I wasn't able to protect myself. You know? And I think that today it's like there's so much happening out there in these streets, and you know, and it's not just gun violence; it's stabbings.
Well, that's a lot in the UK too. They took their guns away, and now all the gang members over there stab each other all the time.
Yeah.
All my friends that I have in London, that's an
also,
issue because there's no guns over there. All the bobbies, the guys that are cops, they carry billy clubs, so then stabbings increase because these are vicious attacks. You know, so that's an effect of what happens when you take the guns away.
Yep. I feel like division in our communities.
But what I was gonna say, I was telling someone this before too. So let's say the zombie apocalypse happens, and you have your food and your water, but you already gave up your guns, and here comes this guy with guns, and then
he's starving.
Hey, I just want your food and your water. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, you're gonna break.
Now all your preparation was for nothing, and the guy that had the weapon was able to take it from you. But if you can defend that, you know, this is it. That's what it is all over the globe. We have nuclear weapons. You have nuclear weapons. All right, now there's no problem.
Right.
But if one has it, then the other person is saying, "I'm in charge."
Anytime someone's throwing out,
I feel like that. You know.
Yeah. No, it's real though. I mean, that's growing up in the streets 101. You know, I mean, again, you know, I've had two brothers that we've had to bury, and you know, these things happen so fast, you know, so you just got to be.
And was it because of guns, your brothers?
I had one brother that was stabbed, and I had one that was shot. Yeah. So, in both cases, there's you know, equally wild.
You know, like, and even when I say that, and my pops, he shot himself. He committed suicide. You know, there's 22 veterans that kill themselves every day.
Right.
And he did that. But I still feel the importance of that, too. I'm not going to let that go because it could have been. I mean, he could have chose to drive off of a cliff, or he could have swallowed pills or whatever,
Right.
too. You know, so
Right.
if people want to do something, they're going to do something regardless of
That's right. Yeah.
whatever. You know,
Yeah.
they can hang themselves. They're gonna do it. Drop the toaster in the bathtub. You know.
That's true. You know, and I think today we have too many people trying to look out for other people. In a sense, where it's crippling almost. It's like, you know, I mean, you might as well wrap your kids in bubble wrap, you know, and hope they don't get a bruise. You know, I mean, it's kind of like extreme at this point. I mean, it seems like back when I was a kid. I mean, we'd be out there in the streets, you know, sometimes, you know, barefoot and in our shorts and a torn up T-shirt, you know, just out there. And you know, our best moments when they hit a fire hydrant and we had like a free pool, you know, out there in the street. Yeah. So we'd all be out there swimming in this stuff, you know, street water with or that street grease rather, and with the water running there. So I tell my kids this day, cheap thrills are the best thrills, you know. And that's as cheap as it got. So
when you're coming from an impoverished place, sometimes you improvise. You know, sometimes people that they don't have a basketball, they put a broken milk crate up, and then that's their hoop. You know, so you become very imaginative when you have to act from a place of you know.
You get creative when you're in the
even
street.
Desperation, you know.
My kids were at a party with talk about slip and slide. I said slip and slide. We had trash bags.
Yeah.
You know, we put trash bags with the water hose, and that was it. And they call it. Someone invents a slip and slide, and you know, that's a thing now. So, but yeah, you get creative. I have a couple creative stories with my kids where, it didn't end too well for them. Where they would put slides up and stuff on furniture and put water. You know what? I guess I raised them kind of the way I grew up. I guess you know, like, hey, you want something, build it yourself. You know, and they did. They would build things themselves, but sometimes there needed to be an inspection of the whole structure because they go right down the hill, slippery sliding.
Well, that's what your job is as the father to do, to make sure that there's no nails sticking out. Or
no, there was never a nail issue. There was never a nail issue, but there was my daughter was wearing she was small enough where she was still wearing these diapers, and the diaper got swollen because, you know, it absorbs water. So she gets in the slide. I'm like, you know, just take it off, you know. So she takes it off. But, you know, she's bare skin on a slide, sliding down a slippery concrete, and she goes flying, you know. And she obviously looked at me like, you knew that was going to happen. You know? And I did not know this was going to happen. I didn't realize she was that slippery.
What's the quote is, from out of maturity, I can foresee consequences you can't see. You know, I knew it was going to happen, but you didn't know that's what.
I probably had a little bit of a feeling that it may happen.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it was going to happen that fast. Yeah. So, well, you know, it's really a good thing to have you on our show to kind of just. I mean, it was really like a shoot the shit kind of moment.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me and having me.
Yeah, and I wish you a lot of luck going forward with film and with creating and producing. Sounds like I don't think anything's going to be in your way. It sounds like you got all the ingredients that's necessary to do it.
With focus, we can do anything we want.
That's right.
Just focus.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have in close, David.
Yeah, great. And, you know, David, thank you for coming in. You know, our film is from Lincoln Heights, just
all right.
away.
Yeah, Northeast side.
And Jeffy, once again, thank you. Great show.
As always.
As always. Gabe, thank you over there, Gabe. Great job. And Sal, Don, and Jennifer. And till next week. Take it away.
Till next week, everybody.
Yep, till next week. And it was a pleasure meeting you. What a great story.
Likewise.
I'm intrigued by all the places you've gone.
Yeah.
I was in Africa, but I was in East Africa.
I want to go there too.
You got to go to East Africa. Yeah. That's got to be your next trip. That is a great trip.
I think Australia's next for me.
Good for you.
Right.
Now, did you do this just out of fun for travel, or did you do it because you were working?
My goal is to set foot on every continent on the planet at least once.
All right, from Boyle Heights,
Bye,
step on every continent.
Yep.